Hello, I was just saying welcome to class training and then realised I was on mute. Anyway, like most of these kinds of things, training sessions, webinars, online presentations, whatever these things are, we will start this one pretty slow because we had quite a few people registered for this one, and the number of attendees is still going up. So I will start very slowly, just to give people time to join the session. I did this thing the other day where I was just quickly responding to a text message, and then when I sent it, I looked up and realized the meeting I was supposed to be in was just starting anyway. Also, if you haven't heard my joke about just getting a cup of tea and coming back and realizing you're late, please don't worry about it. You are not missing much there. Okay, I will end it with the jokes. That's about all the jokes I've got for you today. I will get on to the actual training session very shortly. Okay, before we do begin, I will take a moment to acknowledge the original owners of country throughout Australia and its collection of surrounding islands. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I myself have a connection to the Awabakal people. And I'd like today to pay special respects to a very special First Nations Australian, Linda Burney, the incoming Indigenous Minister. I always forget the actual title of that role, but very exciting to have Linda Burney in that role. I'll also pay respects to any and all First Nations Australians with us today. I will also pay respects to all elders, whether they be past, present or emerging, and I will recognise that these lands were never ceded and that sovereignty was never extinguished. A little bit of housekeeping. This software won't let you unmute yourself, so if you do have a question, feel free to submit it in the questions section of your control panel. I will be keeping an eye on that. This session is being recorded. I will try to get that online by the end of the week. I'm going to try and do it this afternoon. Also, I have scheduled in about 90 minutes for this session. I would like to be able to hand you back some of that time today, but I had a look at the video that we have in our video library of class training sessions on our website, and the last one of these sessions was 90 minutes, so I suspect we're probably not going to be here for any less than that. Anyway, I'll stop prattling on about that and we'll see how we go. Okay, welcome to class training. So today we're beginning a run of training sessions for the reporting season, which is coming up. So today kicks off the reporting season's training. We've already put all of our data into class, all our clients and the services we do to those clients, all that sort of stuff. Now we need to get that data out in terms of stats to submit those to our funding bodies. So we're going to have a look at how we do that today. My name is Samuel Martin. I've been on the ICT team at CLCs Australia for about the last 2.5 years and been doing these training sessions for about the last 18 months. Okay, we'll have a quick look at the overview of today's session. This will be a pretty quick look at this. I'll give you a little bit of the background information and then we'll have a look at the reports, and I'll give you the tips and tricks, how to use the reports is what I'm going to teach today. So as you can see there, we've got the 3 types of reports: standard, drill down and DIY, and I'll come back to that pretty shortly. A few notes, a few things just to kick us off with. No one needs to know every report, and the naming conventions I will come back to. Okay, so when we have a look at class in a moment, the first thing you may notice is that my version of class may look different to yours. So if you don't have access to the reports, then you will need to contact your class administrator to amend the permissions for your class account. so that you can get access to the reports. Now, once you do have access to the reports, you don't need to know all of them, okay? No one needs to know all of the reports. What you really need to know is how the reports work. Then you can figure out how to get the data you need, or you can even then just figure out how to put some data into a report and then to read what that data is telling you. Now, as well as that, some people may not have access to all the reports. Again, we're going back to the permissions for your class account. If you want access to more of the reports, again, contact your class administrator. Okay, if you ever need help, or if you want to understand the reports more, we've got the class help desk, and I'll come back to that at the end of the session. Okay, I want to go through the naming conventions here. It might be a good time to flick over to class and have a look at the actual reports and how we access them. Okay, let me flick over to class, and here it is. Okay, so here's class, I've logged in. We're not going through training on how to do that. Okay, so to access the reports, we look in the bottom left. Now, this is what I was saying, your class may look slightly different to this. If you don't see reports and accountability, you're not going to be able to look at the reports today. You'll need to contact your class administrator. Unfortunately, I don't have time to be able to pause now so that everyone could get access. I wish I could, but unfortunately, I don't. Okay, once you do see reports and accountability there, you just click on that, and then that will change this up here, and now we just click on reports. We're doing accountability in about 3 weeks from now. We'll ignore that for now and come back to it. Okay, so we wanted to look at the naming conventions. Now, the first thing I want to show you is that we've got a lot of reports in here. I'm just going to start scrolling down through the list of reports. I'll get to the bottom sometime. There it is, and I'll bring your attention down here to where we can see this. I think they call it a paginator or something like that. You know, we've got a couple of pages of reports, and over here in the left we see this is page 1 of 2. So there's 2 pages of reports, and there's 66 items, which means there's 66 different reports. Now, nothing to freak out about there, as I was saying earlier. You don't need to know them all. It's more about how they function rather than memorizing every single report. Now, another little note here is that it's almost impossible that your list of reports will be the same as mine. That's not going to happen. Don't worry about that either. I'll come back to why that is a bit later. Okay. Now, the naming convention is what I was going to get onto. So we've got the display name here, and this is how we open the reports. To click on these links, that'll open the reports. And then we've got the report type, which kind of just repeats the name of the report, really. Now, so we've got the names of the reports here. That's an example of one there, the S01 services and targets by financial year. All of that stuff at the end is kind of, I mean, it tells you what the report has in it. But the naming convention I really want to talk about today is this one where we've got a letter and a number. Okay, so, excuse me. The letters all stand for something. I'll scroll back to the top and start at the beginning. We start with the C reports, and C stands for clients. So all of the C reports will give you counts for clients, numbers of clients broken down by whatever, geographical area or whatever it might be. Okay, C, then we get to S, the S reports. S stands for services. We've also got M, which stands for management. Now, I do have a note for you here. The M reports, or the management reports, are all to do with accountability. So if you don't do accountability, feel free to ignore those reports. If you do, we will be coming back to these in 3 weeks when we do the accountability training session. We won't be going through those today. But there is data that you can get out of these reports for your accountability. Yep. Okay. Then we've got the N reports, and now we've got this labeled as NPA. I'm pretty sure I just saw the other day that that's going to be changed pretty shortly to NLAP. So these are all reports addressing particular areas of the NLAP agreements. the N reports, and there's a couple of others, one or two others here. There's the PT01, which is problem types. And then there's one other, which is DIY, which is the do-it-yourself reports, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. Okay, so that's the naming conventions. Those are the notes. Okay. The report types, as I was saying, here they are, the standard, drill down, and do-it-yourself. We'll have a quick look at each of these today. We're going to have a look, we're going to have a more in-depth look, a deeper dive into the standard reports next week, and then we'll have a deep dive into the drill down and DIY reports the week after that. So we'll have a quick look at each of these today. We're just going through the basics, a bit of an introduction to the reports, and we'll have a quick look at each type and how they work. Okay. We'll start with the standard reports. I have a cheat code for you. That has to do with the two most common standard reports. I'll show you how to set them up, and then I'll go through telling stories with data, and I've got a funny little emoji there. Don't freak out about that. That's not that hard. You don't have to do, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to go through it just quickly for you, just because it is interesting. At least I think it's interesting. Anyway. Our cheat code of the two most common standard reports. Okay, so I could have made a graphic for this. I could have done like a slide in my slide deck, but I didn't because this is so easy that I kind of felt like it would be insulting your intelligence to do that. I'm not actually being lazy. This really is pretty simple. So the cheat code is that there are two reports that will give you I want to say most of the data that you're looking for. These are the two reports that are most often used. Another quick note while I'm on this slide for standard reports is that if you're ever looking for data in class, try a standard report first. They're easier to use. They have counting rules built into them, which is nice. The DIY reports really are much harder to use. The drill down reports are harder to use as well. So if you're looking for data and you can get it in a standard report, you might be able to save a bit of time and effort, and you might save yourself a headache. Okay, now our cheat code for the two most common standard reports. Now there's one that it counts clients, and C for clients is the third letter of the alphabet. So we made that report C03. And then the other one is for services, and we made that one S01, mostly because S is, I don't even know what it is, the 20-something letter of the alphabet. We didn't want to make it S21 or whatever S is, I don't even know what it is. So we just made it S01. So there's your cheat code. Again, I think it's really simple and pretty easy to remember. C03 and S01. Okay. Let's go and have a look at, well, I'll show you both of those reports and we'll see how we set up a report and get some data out of class. Speaking of which, let's flick back to class. There it is. Okay, I'm going to scroll back to the top. Excuse me, I'll do this. Okay, and we've got the C03 report here. Gives us our counts of clients by priority group. I don't know what the custom really means, but anyway, ignore that. Okay, so I just clicked on that link just to open the report, and this is what we see when the report opens. Now, there's no data in there because we do have to tell all of the reports a few basic details before it can calculate the data for us. Okay, so this panel is kind of always there. You can kind of minimize it, but I won't worry about that now. So we've got the filter panel, and then you've got this big main window, I guess is what you would call it. This is where our data is going to load into. Okay, I'll start with the filter panel. This is where we have to tell the report what we're looking for. Now we have to give every report, no matter what type, we have to give every report a date range. So we'll start with the start date of our date range. We also have to tell it the funding categories, but I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to put in the date range to start with. Now I'm going to put in 12 months worth of data. 12 months to date is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to do this, and I'm going to show you how I do this. And then later in the session, I'm going to flick through this quickly just because you don't need to see it 10 times. It's really not that difficult. So I'm going to go flick back. I'm going to use this button to flick back a year. So this will go back to May 2021. There's our calendar going back. And I'm just going to choose the 1st of June. And that's selected our start date. And then the end date, I can click in there. Now, the other way to select dates is to type them. So today is 31/05/2022, and that will have selected that date, giving us the date range of 12 months to date. Now, I could use this and I could just click today, and that is a nice, easy way to do it. I just thought I would show you the 2 different ways to enter dates into these fields. Okay, now, the funding categories. You can select whichever funding categories you want. Quick note, another quick side note here, very quickly. All of the data that you're seeing here today is all dummy data. Please don't think you're going to see any confidential data here today. It's not. I'm using the CLCs Australia instance of class, and we don't actually have any clients, so it's all dummy data, including the funding categories. As we can see, that doesn't look like a real funding category to me. These are all dummy ones. Now you can select the funding categories you want. You could select a group of funding categories. No, you can't. Oh, yes, you can. Or you could just select them one by one. You could just select, I only want that one. Then the other thing you can do, I mean, you could make that work somehow, but the other thing you can do if you don't really want to select particular funding categories, you just want to get all the data out, is you can just click this box up here next to name. Click that, that'll load all the funding categories available. And then you can just click out of that box just to close it, and all of those funding categories are now selected. We're coming back to catchment and demographic. We don't need those for now. What I can do is click load report, and that will load data into this report for us. And we'll see what a class report looks like. And there it is. And the first thing to note is that they always open quite small. They're never big enough. Anyway, we can adjust that. We've got these controls up here. We can click the minus to make it smaller. Don't know why you would. You can click the zoom in button is what it is to zoom in, or we've got this drop down here. We can fit it to the page width, and then we can scroll down to see our data. Okay. So once we can see what's in here, this is what we get. I'll show you what we've got. Up the top, you'll get the name of the report, and then you get all the filters. It'll give you your date range, your funding categories that you selected. This is telling us the catchment and the name of the centre. The name of your centre that you're logged into should be listed there. Then we get this box with the demographics. It's pretty big, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. It's just telling us that it's giving us all the demographics, and they're all currently set to any, and I will come back to that later. I'll scroll to the bottom, and this is where our data actually lives. I'm going to make this bigger. There we go. Now there's some data. Okay, so we've got the center name, there's the center name, and we get our totals. So here's our data for the past 12 months. 42 clients is the number of clients we entered into class. Again, this is all dummy data. Now, it then breaks down all of that data in this report for demographics of those clients. Sorry, I'm trying not to scroll too much. Got all kinds of demographics, age ranges, genders, which are back here. And then you get DV, income levels, all sorts of things, Indigenous Australians, culturally or linguistically diverse Australians. Oh, this is financial disadvantage, this is DV. And then our regional and remote clients and homeless clients. And I'll show you more about what, I'll show you more of what we can do with these demographics a little bit later, pretty soon. So that's the C03 report. I might flick over and show you the S01 report and see what we get in that. So these are the 2 reports that we recommend. We highly recommend these reports, C03 and S01. These are good reports. Now, as I was saying before, I'm just going to throw 12 months of data in there really quick. I may have done that wrong last time. Anyway, it's not a major deal. I'm just doing a demonstration, and I'm just going to load some data into this report. Please excuse me that was really quick, and I just kind of fanged right through that. I just want to, I mean, we've seen it before, so I just want to show you this report and the data in it. Okay, so here's the S01 reports. This is going to give us counts of clients. Now, these are really technical. They're really technical counting rules. If you really want to know exactly what the counting rules for total number of clients, new clients, repeat clients, and existing clients are, come to the help desk and ask us. We can give you that. I'll actually even show you later on where to find the information for all of these reports. It's all on our website. Now, this also breaks it down by the service types. So here's the number of informations, referrals, advices, all of the different service types. Quick note is that we're also going to add a bunch of different service types. It's not a bunch, there's a couple of them. Will be added to some of these reports. So it's the things like ongoing legal support and ongoing non-legal support will soon appear in these reports as well, but that's a little way down the track, but not too far off. So that's the S01 report and the data that you get in there. Okay, that's the C03 and the S01 reports. I'm just going to flick back really quickly. Setting up reports, telling stories with data. So I'm going to just do this really quickly and I will let you know why I'm doing this. Okay, yep, okay. So I heard this thing on the radio a while back. Someone's saying you can take all these kinds of numbers and sit them on the desk of a policymaker and watch their eyes glaze over. But once you start to humanize these stories, once you start to humanize these numbers and start to turn them into stories, that's when people get interested and start taking note. So I would like to show you how you can do some of that with some of these reports. And you can start to tell some pretty interesting stories just with these really basic reports and these really basic numbers that we're getting out. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration. It's probably not going to be super interesting, mostly because all of our data is dummy data and the numbers are really low and so on and so forth. But I will try to show you the functionality and how it works and how you can tell stories with your data. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the filter panel and I'll have a look at the catchment. What we can do here, so I've got this aggregated by a center. So for all of the data for the CLCs Australia instance of class, we're counting all of that data by doing this. We could break it down by administrative boundary, by office location, or by outreach. If I did office location, it would break down all these numbers and it would put the office locations in this column. So you'd have main office and then the other office and then the other office. They'd all have rows and all these numbers would be broken down. I will show you quickly aggregate by administrative boundary. Once you select that, then you need to select an administrative boundary type. I'm going to say suburb. I had a quick look at this before. This is going to be a very unimpressive demonstration, mostly because we don't enter addresses for our clients because we're mostly just doing testing and demonstration and whatnot. So we kind of just skip through the address section when we're entering clients into class because, again, it's all dummy data. So all of our clients are in unknown suburbs, but if you were to do this, you would find much more interesting data and it will actually break it down into correct figures. I mean, these are correct figures. This is what we've entered. So the figures are correct. It's just not very interesting. Anyway, you could break down your data and tell a story about where your clients live and who, where you've been delivering services to and where your client's coming from, I think is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that really quickly. I'm gonna put it back to aggregate it for the entire center, putting it back to the default setting. I'm now gonna click into the demographic box here. This is gonna be really long. This is really long. It's a bit hard on the eye. That's it there, and it scrolls all the way down, and it can be a bit tricky to work with, but just bear with me. I'm gonna scroll back to the top, and I'm gonna show you something I set up earlier, which again is not a great demonstration, but it will show you how you can tell stories with your data. Okay, so I'm going to go to financial disadvantage. Now, we know we're supposed to be providing most of our services to people who are experiencing financial disadvantage. So I'm going to change this box from any. I'm going to select yes. So now this report is going to change from the data we had from the default, it's going to change it to only clients where the financial disadvantage indicator is set to yes. So we now see that we've got 16 clients, I think it is. Let me make it bigger. 16 clients. Okay, so 16 clients is experiencing financial disadvantage. All right, so not a very interesting story there. Let me go along and find the homelessness indicator. And I'm going to set that to yes as well. So we had 16 clients experiencing financial disadvantage. If I put homelessness indicator in there as well, now we've got 9 clients. So from that, we can say the story that we're telling here is that more than half of our clients who are experiencing financial disadvantage are experiencing homelessness as well. Now, going back to what I was saying, this is not the most impressive demonstration, but it is a way, it shows you how you can tell stories with your data. Again, our dummy data doesn't make for great stories, but your data should be able to tell you more interesting stories. And if we see here in this demographics thing, it's really long. You can mix and match your data a lot of different ways and tell really just dozens and dozens of different kinds of stories. And with real data that you've got, which I don't have, they could be interesting stories, much more interesting than this. Okay. We have a question here. In the S01 report, are there referrals in or referrals out? The referrals, I believe that is, I'm going to come back to this a bit later, but thank you for that question. So we'll see if I get this right, but I think the answer is that will count the services where you set the service type to referral. So they would be referrals out, but I'm going to double check on that officially later. Thanks again for the question. Okay. Now, okay, that's basically it for that, how we're tracking. Yep, okay. Let me flick across to the drill down reports. Okay, so I'll tell you how they differ to standard reports, and I'll introduce you to the field list. This gets a bit interesting, the field list. Okay, how drill down reports differ to standard reports. So with the standard reports, as we could see, I'm gonna flick back to class and show you. Basically what we do here is we give it a date range, we tell it it's the funding categories, and we hit load report and it counts the data for us. So we do have a few more bits of functionality. We can tell it to count it up by where the clients live, or where which office the service was delivered by, or which outreach. We can count it up by doing demographics and whatnot. So how the drill down reports differ to standard reports is that you get lots more functionality. And with that functionality, with that flexibility to get the data that you really want, comes a few more challenges. They're slightly more challenging, these reports, but they're more flexible. So with the flexibility comes a few more challenges. Okay, I'm going to flick back to the list of reports so that I can find one to show you. I've got a note here of which one I need. Yes, I know that one. Okay, this will be a good demonstration. It's not there. It's in the next page. So we'll flick across to the next page of reports and we see the DIY reports here. Now, I have just realized there was a thing that I was going to show you, which I haven't done. It's really minor. I just want to show you this column here, the format of the reports. As we can see, these are the standard reports. If I scroll down, most of them are standard reports, and then towards the bottom we will see the drill down reports. There's 3 in this page, and then I'll flick across to page 2, and these are all drill down reports, and so the DIY reports are referred to, or the format of those reports are drill down reports. So what is a drill down report? So let's go and have a look at one. I'm going to open N12, the number of problem types by law type. So I'll click there to open that report, and then I'm going to pop on a mute for a sec so I can really quickly have a sip of my tea. Okay, thanks. Excuse me, and thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so we can see that we've got a few differences. As soon as we open that, the main panel looks different. The filter panel looks much the same, slightly different, but much the same. But the main panel is where the main difference is. Now, with the drill down reports, so the drill down reports and the DIY reports differ slightly, and I'll show you what the differences are. I'll show you which reports are drill down reports and which reports are DIY reports a bit later. Actually, I can just tell you right now. Any of the reports with DIY at the start of the name is a DIY report. Any of the reports that are, of the format drill down and don't have DIY in the name, they will be drill down reports. Okay. I'll clarify that so it's not so confusing a bit later. So I'll do what I did with the S01 report. I'll load some data into this report and I will show you what we can do with it. I'll load all the funding categories, just doing a demonstration. So I'll just click load report and get data. So here it is. Okay. Here's the data that has been loaded into this report. So what I'm seeing here is this is showing us the state reporting body. And it's saying that for any of the centres that are listed as being for no state reporting body, which is only this centre. So it's breaking down, so we've got the number of problem types. So it's breaking down our data by the number of problem types. Now, how's that going to happen? Well, it has to count up services. So then it's breaking it down by the area, the statistical areas, SA3s and SA4s. So that would be where the clients live. Okay, so then it's breaking it down by the problem types. So it's breaking it down by law type. I'm pretty sure, just give me a second. I just want to clear view customizations. I thought that was yep, okay, excuse me. I'm getting a little bit confused myself. These reports can be a bit tricky. Bear with me. Apologies for this. Okay, it's a little bit tricky trying to explain what this data is. So this is telling us that in the so the SA3 is Albury and then the SA4 is Murray. I thought it went the other way around, but don't quote me on that. So it's saying that there were 2 civil law problem types used in that area over the past 12 months. So this is what our data is telling us. So rather than telling you exactly what this data is telling us, I'll show you what we can do with this report. I'll also show you other things that this report is doing, which it's kind of doing in the background. It is here in front of us, but it's not super obvious, so we'll go through it now. So up here, we've got the service type field listed there. So this is the filtering section. We'll see it a bit later in more detail, but up here at the very top, this is where we're filtering the report by kind of, we can do it a lot of different ways, and I'll come back to that shortly. If I click this little icon here, the little funnel icon, this will show us all the different service types, and okay, so it's actually giving us pretty much everything right now. Kind of interesting. Anyway, what I could do is remove the information, referrals, triage, anything that is kind of not in the agreements, the funding agreements that our funding bodies don't want to see. If they don't want to see information, referrals, obviously they're not going to want to see how many clients we've got. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Not going to want to see how many clients we've got in triage. Can you do it for us? Referrals. Okay. I'm going to come back to those questions. There are a couple of questions there, but I'm going to come back to those in just a minute. So what we can do is filter this report to give us, so it's changed the data when I filtered that, is basically what I'm trying to say here. That has filtered that data and has changed the data. Okay, so that's kind of a bit of a pretty quick explanation of what this report is doing and the data that it's giving us. But what I really want to do is show you the functionality in these reports rather than the data itself. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to the field list. There's actually 2 ways to open the field list. The field list is exactly what it sounds like. It's a list of fields. I'll show you the first way to open it. I actually use the other way, but I'll show you this way first. So if I come to the top of the report anywhere and right click, I'm just going to test. Yeah, if I right click down here, I get this menu, which is not going to do anything. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not going to help me. So I'm going to click out of there to close that. And then up the top of the report, if I right click here, that will bring up this menu, different menu. And in the middle, we can see show the field list. So I'm going to click on that to show the field list, and there it is. So this is our field list. What I can do with it is, there's actually a number of different things I can do with it. The first one I want to show you is that I can pick it up and move it around. So I'm going to move it right into the center, and then I can also make it bigger. So if I hover there in the bottom right, get that arrow, and I can drag it out so that we can see a bit better what is in there. As I was saying before, this is a list of fields. So here are all the fields. Now, why am I showing you this? Because what we can do with the drill down reports is get the kind of data that we want, rather than just having it all pre-made for us. We can make our own reports. So I'm going to move this field list over to the side so that I can show you what we can do. So maybe what I don't want are these statistical area fields. I don't know that much about the statistical areas and whatnot, so I'm going to pick those up, both of them, one at a time. I'll pick up SA3 first. I'm just going to click on it and then drag it, and we can see it moving. I'm going to drag it over to the field list, and so if I drop that anywhere on the field list, that's going to remove that from the report. That's gone now. We had center name, then SA3, then SA4. SA3 is now gone. Now I'm going to pick up SA3 and drag that across as well, drop that there because I'm not interested in those. Now, this report says it's the number of problem types by law type, but problem type's not actually in there. Well, what I want is the problem types. I want to see how many problem types we do. So I'm going to pick up that field from the field list. I'm going to drag it over, and I'm going to drop it into the report. Now, I'm still holding down to drag that field. And the reason for that is that there's several places I could drop this. I could drop it up here to make it a filter. I could drop it in there, but I don't know if it actually will drop in there or not. I don't think it will, because that's just for numbers of things, counting things is what that area is. Anyway, I'm coming back to that later. I'm going to drop it into the rows. I could drop it into the columns, but again, I'll come back to that as well. I'm going to drop it into the rows. Now, I could also drop this anywhere here that I want. I'm going to drop it in the very right-hand side of the rows. And as soon as I see those two arrows appear, the down-facing one and the up-facing one, that is where this is going to be dropped into this field. So I'll let go now to drop that field into there. It's going to reload the report for us, and now we can see the problem types. So we can, and as we can see, we've got quite a few fields in here. A lot of these aren't super interesting. We've got the LGA. I don't even know what IREG or ILOC or IARE are. The CED will be Commonwealth electoral divisions, and then we might have, yeah, so that will be state electoral divisions. And then we've got all the statistical areas. RA is remoteness area or something like that. So we could put in the office locations or the outreach locations, just like in the report we saw earlier, and we could filter our data that way. But this is basically how the report works. We can drag fields in, we can drag fields out. Maybe we don't really want to know which law types they were in or are in. Maybe we just want to see the problem types, and the law types aren't of any interest to us. We could pick that up and drag that out, drop it onto the field list and remove it. And there's our problem types listed there. I could also close this field list. If it's in the way, I can get rid of it, close that. And I've just realized that I didn't actually show you this second way to open that field list, which is the way I use all the time now. I've gotten used to doing it this way. I find it much easier. So the other way to open the field list is to come up to the top right, to find customize. Now that's a drop-down thing. There'll be a list of drop-down things there up here if you hover over it. Don't click on any of those, just click on customize itself, and there's the field list. So that's how I open it. It's a single click. It's really quick and easy. That's the way I like to do it. Okay. So we've seen a drill down report, and we've seen basically what they do. Okay. Can you do, I'm just looking through a couple of questions here. CLC questionnaire asking for referrals. Referrals in by location. Standard report doesn't give location. Yep, okay. Yes, thank you for that question. I might do that when I show DIY reports, which is coming up pretty soon. Where are we? Yeah, okay. I might show one more drill down report. Just quickly, back to the list of reports. I'm going to flick back to page 1 as well. And I'm going to flick to the bottom, and I'm going to open the PT01. Apparently that's, I've got to note that that's an interesting report to show. Again, we're looking at problem types. It's all problem types today. Let me throw some data in. Again, I'll skip through this very quickly. Funding categories. I'm using the same date range for everything, 12 months to date, just because it's easy. And here's our report. So this is giving us the number of and the proportion of problem types. So over the past 12 months, this is saying we had four problem types were selected for credit and debt management / negotiation, and it's counting up the proportions. So these are all the problem types that were selected. Again, dummy data, there's not many there. And I'll count it up in the percentage of them. So, right, yeah, tenancy bond, we've got our class set to put that in as the problem type by default. So that's why that would be 79%, and then it breaks it down to these ones that are just under 2%. This one's just over 3%, and that one's almost 7%. So it'll count all of the, it'll count it up by percentages. So I'll open the field list and see what we get. There's nothing in the field list for this one, okay, which is kind of interesting. So basically what I'm showing you here is that some of these drill down reports have a bit more functionality, some of them have a bit less. If you want to have a look, and if you're trying to find something and you open the field list and there's nothing in there like this, that's because that's the way this report is set up. What you could do is take the proportions. We're not interested in percentages, I'm pretending we're not interested in the percentages. So I'm just going to remove that, and that will remove it from the report and just give us the numbers. That's about all that we can really do with that one. So that's a report on, so this is the top 20 problem types. So I'm fairly sure that's not 20, just from a quick look. So yours will get to the top 20. Obviously, again, dummy data, we don't have that many. Okay, so those are the drill down reports, and I might now move on to the DIY reports. So these are the most powerful. So we had a question here asking this, that, and the other, basically stating the standard referral reports don't give locations. So can we do that, was basically the question. I'm fairly sure the answer to that is yes, and I'll show you how. So if you've got questions like that, and you're looking at the standard reports and you're realizing this is not doing what I want, you can try a DIY report. So these are the most powerful. They will give you your best chance of getting the data you want. There are a few limitations with the class reports. I will tell you what those are. There's not many, there's only one or two, but there are a couple. Then I'll go through the functionality for you. Okay, now with these being the most powerful reports, there really are a few caveats here, and I'll show you those right now, because this is kind of important, because I don't want I really wouldn't want anyone submitting data that's not technically completely correct. And these things do get pretty technical. So I'm going to flick back to the list of reports, and I'll flick over to page 2. And we've got the naming convention here. I'll go through it really quickly. There is another naming convention for the DIY reports. It's pretty simple. They all start with DIY. These are our DIY reports down here, and then they've all got a bunch of other words. So this one at the top, the first DIY report we've got here is the DIY client additional detail. Now the naming convention is that what these words are is where the screens from where the fields come from. So you've got the client, then you've got additional details. So you've got the client screen. So all of the fields on the client screen will be available in that report, and all of the fields on the additional details screen will also be available in that report. You can have all of those fields. Now, this is one of the limitations of the class reports, is that you can't have fields from 3 separate screens. So we've had people ask us, can you build us a report that gives us this, that, and the other? And we've had a look at them and realized, well, what they really need are fields from the client screen, the services screen, and the actions screen. That you can't do, which is unfortunate. So that's one of the limitations of the class reports. I don't know that there are actually many others, but that is the main one. Okay. There's one of these reports, the DIY reports, which is used probably 90% of the time. It's a good one. It works really well, and I'm going to show it to you really soon. I'll just really quickly show you. There's some reports here that deal with projects. If it says project, so that will get the fields from the project screen. So this report here at the very bottom gets the fields from the project screen as well as the project service screen. Then some of them get documents as well. So if you want data about your documents, you can get those out of these reports as well. I might show you one of those a bit later, seeing how we're going for time. We're tracking okay at the moment. The number one report, the number one DIY report that is used is the DIY service client. So it's going to get the fields from the client screen and the service screen. I'll click there to open it now. So when it opens, it'll look a bit similar to the drill down reports that we saw, but slightly different. So in the drill down reports that we saw, we could see there were things in these areas. In this report, everything's empty. So this is the main caveat that I want to tell you about the DIY reports. We need to be careful because we need to tell these reports exactly what we want. And when I say exactly, I mean exactly what we want. If we leave something out, the report's not going to know that we've left it out. We have to be really mindful that we get everything right. Anyway, I don't want to scare you or anything. I don't want to scare you off. These are really good reports. Anyway, I'll start at the top here. We've got the drop filter fields here. So in the N12, I think it was, report, we could see that had the service type in there. So this is what this area is for, filter fields. If we want to filter the data by a certain field, we can drop that field in here and then filter it, and that will change the data. Now, drop data items here, for most of these reports, you're really only going to have a couple of options. For this one, it is number of clients and number of services. For other reports, it might be things like number of project services or something like that. Now, we've got the drop row fields here. This is where I recommend placing most of the fields that you're going to put into your DIY reports. We've got the drop column fields here. As we saw in one of these drill down reports, we did have the law type in there. That's a good example of what is a good thing to put into the column area. I'll show you another thing that the column area is good for, but mostly I leave it alone. I don't usually put things into the column area, but I'll show you what it can be good for. Now, the filter panel is also slightly different. We've got the date range, rolling date range I will go through in just a second. Additional reporting dates, I'll go through that as well. Additional fields, which is probably not very aptly named, but I'll go through that again as well. Then we get down to the funding categories, which we've already seen, and we've got a couple of other things which I will go through later. Okay, start date. I'm going to throw 12 months of data in like I have done. There's that. I could select all the funding categories and hit load report, but there's nothing in here, so it's not going to give me any data. All right, I want to show you the rolling date range. It depends on, what data you're looking for. Actually, no, it doesn't. I'm skipping ahead of myself. The rolling date range, you can set your date range rather than clicking through and finding your dates. You can set it with a couple of clicks. So I'll click into there to open this drop-down menu and show you all the options so you can get the tomorrow. That's an interesting one. You could get all the data for today, all the data that's been entered today. You could get all the data that's been entered for tomorrow. Maybe that's for appointments that have been set up or something like that. Anyway, so you can have the previous X number of days, and then it'll open this new column. How many days? I'll just put a 1 in there. Oh, previous 1 days. Anyway, you can have this calendar week, this calendar month, a certain number of calendar weeks or calendar months. You can have this quarter or the previous quarter. There's a whole bunch of options in here. The last 12 months to date, that's what I've been doing all day. So I'll select that. And once I select that, that'll auto-generate the date range in this start date and end date for you. I'll show you how it works this financial year. And that's changed it from what it was to the 1st of July last year to 30th of June. Yeah, so that's giving us this financial year. So you can change your date range just with a couple of clicks there. Okay, next thing to look at is additional reporting dates. Now, I've kind of skipped ahead to this before. What I was saying is that it depends on what data you want to see. It's auto or default filled to the service day completed service, and the reason for that is that most of our funding bodies are looking for services that have been completed, not too interested in the work we've still got going on, want to know how many services we completed. But we do have options here. It's auto-filtered that, but we can change it to the service open date. So if I select that, this is going to count up only the services with an open date between this date range. I get really confused about this because it is really technical and there's a lot of functionality in here. I believe the way it works is that it will give you all of the discrete services that have a service date. So the date of when you did the discrete service, they'll all be counted in this. And then the ongoing services that have an open date within this date range, those are the ones that are counted. So then we've also got service close date. Again, that'll be your discrete services with a date in that range, and the ongoing services, if they've got a close date within that range, they'll be counted if you select that. All open ongoing services, that's going to be a really technical counting rule. Basically, it's going to be all of the services that are still, it's kind of your ongoing services that are still open and ongoing that don't have a close date. You can get the data for all of those. Active services, we're going to change that very soon. I might go through it just so you know what it is or what it's going to do once it finally works properly. It's taken us a really long time to get this fixed, but it will be fixed pretty soon. We're going to rename it to Open at Start. So active services will be gone and it will be open at start instead. And what it will do is give you any services that are open at the start of the date range. So what you would do is set it to something like, I'm just going to click today, and then I'm going to say what you would do if you selected that was you would select something like yesterday, and then the end date you would select today, and then you would select, it'll be open at start, not active services. And what that will then do is give you it'll count up all the services that you've still currently got open. So you could then make a list of them if you wanted to, and I'll show you how to do things like that shortly. Okay, so that's a brief explanation of what that is or what it is going to be. If anyone wants the full technical definition, let us know at the help desk. I'll be going through how to do that at the end of this session. Okay, I'm going to set that back to the default option, not for any real reason. Additional fields I'm going to come back to. Funding category, I'm going to select all. Again, no point in clicking load report because there's nothing to load. I'm going to come back to these two as well. Okay, I'm going to open the field list. There's the field list, and as we can see instantly, it's different to the one we saw before. I'm going to drag this out so that we can see it better. And I'll just scroll through quickly. I'll just start slow and we're up to C. It's not scrolling, there it is. Okay, I will stop here and show you these fields. They start with C and an F and an underscore. that is custom fields. So all of your custom fields will be available in here. So this is the service client report. So any custom fields you've put on the client screen and any custom fields that you've put on the service screen, they will be available in here. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Excuse me, that's all the custom fields. We have way too many custom fields. Okay, go through C. I'm going to start going quicker because there's a whole bunch of fields in here, just a ton of them. So there's a whole bunch of different kind of data you can get out of here and a whole bunch of different reports you can make. Now, I'm going to make the one that I was asked to make. The standard referral reports don't give you location. Yeah, okay. Can you do CLC questionnaire asking for referrals by location? Yes, okay. All right. Now, I was talking earlier about some of the dangers with these reports. Now, one of those, oh, that's right. I was talking about how we have to tell it exactly what we want or the exact data that we want to do. Now, here's one of the real caveats. This is something I really want to stress, that is important. So we were talking about a referral report. Now I'm going to click back to this report. No, I'll click back to this one, S01, just to show us a standard report. Now this is a standard report. Now I will be showing you later that all of these reports do have very specific counting rules, and they've all been set up, those counting rules, very specifically. Now in here we've got our information and referrals. For a lot of these standard reports like the C03, excuse me for clicking around, you know, this is not really going to be counting clients who've only had information referral or triage services, what we call IRT, information referral triage. They're not really counted in here. So if we want to replicate a report if we want to replicate a standard report by doing it in a DIY report, we need to take that into consideration or we're not going to get the same data. And we get people coming to us saying this all the time. I've replicated a standard report with a DIY report and the numbers are different. The reason for that is the service type. Your standard reports may be counting service types in a very particular way. It may be leaving out a whole bunch of those service types, whereas if you don't tell your DIY report to do that, it's not going to know. So we have to do that very specifically and very intentionally. So I've taken the service type field and I've placed it into the rows area. Okay. Now I'm going to come back to the question I was given. The referral reports. Now I'm kind of having a guess at this, but I'm thinking that's going to be a count of services. Please let me know if it's not. And I'll change this because that's really quick and easy. I can do that. But I'm going to put in, I'm going to tell this to count the number of services. So I'm also going to show you another way to find fields. So the fields I'm looking for are number of service and number of clients. And I can scroll down and I'm scrolling, and I might scroll all the way past the ends. Oops, let me go back. There they are there. Let me scroll all the way back to the top because there's a quicker and easier way to do it. Now I'm going to go Command F, it's Control F if you're on a Windows machine, Control F, that'll open the find function on my browser, my web browser, and I'm going to type in no of, and I'm going to go C, and there's the fields. It'll bring the fields up for you. So there's the number of client. I want number of service, and I'm going to take it and drag it in there. Maybe one more really quick demonstration. What's a good one? Office location. As you move the services around, it'll take the field list back to the top. So what you could do is go 1, 2, 3, clicks and go office, and there's the office fields. And the good thing is that it'll highlight a whole bunch of fields for you if you're just doing a basic search. Now we can put in office location postcode or suburb. Anyway, there's a demonstration for us. So we want the referrals and we want them broken down by area, right? Yes, we can do that. So the way we want to do that is I'll bring up the Control F again and I'll go client. Oh, that's not what I want at all. Okay, let me close this. That wasn't what I want. I'm going to scroll back to the top and I'm going to do this the long way. Bear with me. Okay, so in here there should be, okay, client postcode, client state, client street, client suburb, client type, we're not looking at that. Okay, what we want, I'm thinking is, I'm gonna use client postcode. So I'm gonna take the client postcode and drop that in by service type, and we saw before, I could drop that there if I wanted to. I'll drop it here for now, and I will come back to that in just a minute. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is click load report, and that will then load data into that report for us. So essentially what we're doing is counting the number of services, and we're listing those by, oh wait, that's on the last 12 months to date, excuse me. This is not working clearly. Let me, where am I? That's, yes, okay. Excuse me, let me see if I can make this work. Load report, load some data in, please. There we go. Okay, apologies for that. I had my date range set wrong. Okay, so what we're doing is counting the number of services, and we can see it's counting the number of services here in this column in the end. And now we're listing the service by the service types, and then we're breaking it down by the client postcode. So we can see the core tribunals, there were 2 of those. Client postcodes weren't entered, ignore that. And then we've got all the other service types. So if you want a referrals report, what you could do is filter this field. I'm not sure this is exactly what was asked for, but if it's not, then please let me know, and I'll see if I can make it exactly what you want. Now, filtering these fields, I'm filtering the service type field. If I click the filter button, we saw this before. What I could do is I could click the show all tick box there and deselect everything. Now what I want are the referrals there. So I can now highlight that one or tick that one and then click OK. And that will change our report. So now we've got just the referrals, and we can see there are 12 of them. And none of the postcodes are listed. If there were any postcodes, they would be listed there. Again, we often forget to enter our addresses because, here we go, referrals out of a service, but I need referrals in. Okay, got it. What was I saying? Yeah, we don't enter our addresses. Anyway, so the person who asked that question has just let me know that they want the number of referrals in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is open the field list, and I'm going to go control find, it's command, whatever it is. I'm going to go referral. No, come on, please. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'll put in a referral and then a space. So now what I've got are these fields here. Referral to facilitated, referral to simple, and then referral from. So these will be the this will be the data that our person who asked this question is looking for. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take referral from and pick that up, drop it in there. Now, if you are trying to, I'm going to harp on about this because it is important and I want you to remember, so I'm going to repeat it. If you want to replicate a standard report like a C03, this person is asking for one of the referral reports, which is not the C03, but if you are trying to replicate a standard report, you might want to put the service type field in your DIY report that you're making and filter it, because you may have to, I'm going to tick all of that, you may have to remove information as referrals and triages. It sort of doesn't make a lot of sense. Or maybe it does make sense, but in a roundabout kind of way to remove the referrals. I'm going to remove no-shows. The tasks can stay, they can stay. All right, I'll just click OK. And that will then replicate, that'll change our data in our report. Now I'm going to filter this referral from the field. I'll show you one other thing we can do with these. So here we've got show all. If I can deselect all of them, I can reselect all of them. Now I'm going to untick show blanks because I find the blanks really annoying. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to remove those from the report, which has really changed the report. And again, what we're seeing is we don't enter our addresses for our clients. Anyway, ignore that. So these are where the referrals are coming from. And then it will list where they're coming from, the client postcode. As we saw before in the field list, you can put in the suburb, street name, all kinds of things. I'll open the field list just to show you the amount of functionality we've got in here. Let's see, No, sorry, I'm going wrong. There's a lot in here and I forget kind of most of it because there's just too much of it. So I'm going to go Control Command F and I'm going to go last. There it is. So I was kind of thinking I need to find the client last name. It's actually, so if you're looking for names, the fields in this report are last name. I'm going to drag that one in, why not? And then I'm going to go first. And there's the first name. So you might think they're client last name and client first name, but they're not. It's just last name and then first name. And I'll put the last name first, last name, anyway, whatever. Put the surname before the given name. And we've got the names in there. So you could put a whole bunch of data in here, which makes me realize I can show you one of the things that we can do with these reports. One of the other things that we can do with these reports. So rather than counting data, we can make lists. So I'm going to close this search thing and I'm going to open the field list and I'm probably going to open the search thing right away again. Anyway, what I'm going to do is remove the number of services. I just want to make a really quick note. I was saying before that most of the standard reports have counting rules and those counting rules might be that the IRT services are left out of the counts. I'll show you where to find all of those counting rules for all of the standard reports towards the end of the session. Okay, now onto list reports that we can make with DIY. So I'm going to pick up the number of services and drag that out. Now, this is another one that people use a lot. I don't need the service types. I don't need the referral from. It does take a little while for the reports to change once you pick up a field and move it. As we saw there, I probably should have mentioned that while I was doing it, but oh no, I mentioned it before. You can pick up the fields and drag them onto the field list and drop them to remove them from the report. So once you've got a DIY report open, you can change it however you want, do whatever you want with it, bring fields in, bring them out, change anything you want really. Okay, so I'm going to look for, okay, I am going to open this again, service. Oh, okay, let me try for assigned to. Okay, so this will be assigned to, obviously that's going to live on the service screen is where that field is from. I've just remembered, oh, okay, I've got it on my, yeah, okay. Ignore me, I'm just muttering to myself. Okay, so I've got assigned to, and then what I'm going to do is the service, so you can have the IDs as well. So the service ID and the client ID will be available as well. So I'm going to take assigned to, maybe I take something like the service status. There we go. Okay. So maybe I'm going to take the service status and I'm going to drop it in there. And this is going to be a good demonstration. I'm kind of demonstrating two things in once. Actually, I'll just do this. I'll do the first demonstration, then I'll do the second one. Okay, so now this is the report I've got now, and it's not really telling me much, but I can make it do that. I'm going to click here to filter the assigned to field, and there's no one that I can assign it to. Excuse me, that's not going to help a ton. Anyway, I don't know why it's like that, but if you had people here that you had services assigned to, like solicitors or principal solicitors or whoever they are, they would show up and you could select an individual, you could select multiple individuals, you could do it however you want. Obviously, I can't do that, but it would list them here by name. Then you could say, I only want the services still in progress or open. The ones that are on hold, I'm not worrying about today. I'm going to come back to those next week. I'm going to look for these ones. So then it'll give us the name of the person, the services they've got in progress, and the services they've got open. It'll give us the service ID, the name of the client postcode. You can put in whatever data you want there, and it can go all the way across the end, and I'll demonstrate. You can put in, let me get the client's, what happened? I misspelled it. Let me get, having a typing problem today. Let me get the client's ATSI status and let me get now I'll get the client's gender, if I can, I can't spell that word. There we go. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so this is a demonstration of how you can really destroy these kinds of reports, not destroy them, but just make them really hard to read. If you kept going, that data is going to be really hard to read. But this is essentially a list report. You could get, and this is something that people want a lot, all the services that are still open, that are still in progress, who they're assigned to, client names, or you could not have client names, you could have other data in there if you wanted to. So that's something that we do quite a bit. Let me get rid of some of these fields because this is awful. But I intentionally wanted to make it look awful because I was demonstrating that. Okay, all right, so there's a demonstration of a list report. So the next demonstration is going to be grouping. Actually, let me click back to my slides because I just want to make sure, yeah, placing and grouping. Okay, yes, this is the next demonstration. So I've just realized I haven't demonstrated to you what I said I would, the columns area. Okay, so one of the really good things to put in there is to break down things by time ranges. Give me a second. Yeah, okay. All right, just bear with me while I'm just really quickly throwing some stuff around. Number of services. Now I'm going to drag that out. I'm going to drag a bunch of this stuff out just so we can see what we're doing because I need a bit of space to demonstrate. So that's not going to work. Okay, all right, let's just do this. I'll drag that out. Okay, now we've got, we'll have a look what we've got. Okay, you could have them assigned to the service statuses. So we've got, this is the data we're kind of getting and the number of them. So there's 11 open, no, 14 open and 11 in progress. Now, one more really quick bit of functionality that we've got for you is ordering. I could change the order of those. I've got this little arrow icon. I can click on that. That'll change the report and order it in reverse alphabetical order. I'll put that right back. There you go, that's ordering. I'm doing placing and grouping. So I've got these fields here. No, I'm not, I'm doing the columns. Okay, I'll open the field list again. Excuse me while I flick back and forth. There's so much functionality to show you here. Okay, so I was saying that time ranges, time things are good things to put into the column fields. So what I'm going to do is do a search for, I'll do month. That'll be the better demonstration, at least I think so, I hope so. Okay, I'll show you another one a bit later. Okay, so this has changed our report, so it's now showing us the months. So our date range is for, it's the last 12 months to date or something like that, whatever our date range is. This is showing us, so that will be September, November, December, and there's all the rest of the months. Now, you may see that there's a few missing. So this is a good way to order or a good way to place your fields. If you're doing things like, I want to know how many we're in each month, you can do that. Yeah, and this is a good way to do it, to put that in the columns rather than putting it in the rows. I'll demonstrate it quickly and show you. This is not really going to work. I mean, it does, but this is a better way to do it. Unless you like that, leave it like that. That I think works pretty well. Now, as I was saying, there are some things missing in here. That's November, we've got no October. If you wanted everything, even if it's going to drop October in here in a minute, and it's just going to be all zeros with a total of 0. Even if you want that, if you want everything, even if it's all just zeros, you can have that. And I'll show you how to do it. You come across to the filter panel and we've got show all dates. That's just the name of it. Just click that and then click load report and we'll see October drop in here. I'm really hoping that works. It didn't work. That's what it's supposed to do. Why is it not doing that? That's really weird. Anyway, oh, so annoying. Anyway, that's what it's supposed to do. Let me do this. Maybe it's because I've got it filtered. No, that doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to make a note of that. And I'm going to test that later because that's supposed to work. Okay. I'll show you another one. It's going to look a bit messier, but I'll show it to you. I'll remove month just to show you the other bit of functionality that we've got in here is weeks. So if you were doing a report for the month of May, you could then break it down by which week it was. So this is going to give us the week of the 30th of May to the 5th of June 2021. And aha, this is show all dates working. We've got the column with all zeros. And so it'll break it down by all your weeks. And obviously this is a massive report, which is ridiculous. I don't recommend doing them this way, but if you have to, you can. I'm going to untick show all dates and click load report again, and hopefully that's going to remove all the columns with the zeros in to give us a proper demonstration of what that actually does. I don't know why that didn't work with months. I am going to test that. I've got a note here. Months, yeah, made a typo in there as well. Anyway, you can do weeks. It's going to look pretty messy if you do it for a long period of time, but there's no way to get around that. I'll quickly demonstrate this other one while I'm showing you show all dates. I'll show you include custom fields as well. I'll open the field list, I'll get rid of weeks, and I'll put a custom field in. A lot of people come to us saying, I've set this up, but my data's just not displaying. There's a couple of tricks here, and I'll show you both of those now. A lot of these custom fields have no data in them. I'm going to end up with one with no data. I'm going to drag that one in. I don't know why. I think I demonstrated it a while ago and there was data in there. As you can see, there's no data in that column. The reason is that you need to tick this box down here if you want data for your custom fields. I'm going to come back to why in just a minute. So if I tick that, it's probably still not going to load any data in there, but the reason for that is, oh, it did, there you go. That's where you get your data for custom fields. Okay, there's another demonstration. So another one for you. I'm going to remove that custom field. What I've got assigned to, I've got, come on. There we go, I've got service status. This is not going to make any sense, but I'm just going to add in problem type. Now you can add the problem type map types. I could try and explain it for you, but I'm not sure I even could, to be honest. I mean, I could, but it might take me a while to remember to drag that information out of my brain. Anyway, I'm just going to take problem types and drag it over and drop it there. I'll close all this stuff so we can see what we're doing. And what we're going to see is that there's not going to be any data load into that field either. Obviously, this is not a report you would make, but ignore that. I just want to demonstrate the additional fields. I don't know why it's named that. I don't think that's a very intuitive name, but I could maybe get it changed if you really wanted me to. I could try. Now, what it means is that any of the fields that are multi-select, so the problem types is a great example of a field that is multi-select. You could choose multiple problem types, whereas service status is a single select field. You can only select one service status. So for all of the multi-select fields, we set up these DIY reports to ignore all of their data unless we tell the report that we need that data. And I suspect that that's why we've got this include custom fields here as well. The reason for both of these things is that the reports run much faster this way. If you're looking for a report, if you're looking for data and none of the fields that you want in your report are multi-select fields, the report will load much quicker because we've set it up this way. If you do need data for those fields that are problem types, it's another couple of clicks, but it's just, that's how we've set it up. So that's just how you have to do it. So you come across to the additional fields box and you click into there, and I'll scroll down and problem types will be in here. I'll select that and then I'll reload the report, and that will load the data into that field or that column for us. There they are. Okay, so that's a whole bunch of different bits of functionality. There's one more thing I do want to go through, which is grouping. Now, these DIY reports, they group the data by the way that you line the fields up. So we've got this grouping it by the assigned to. So it'll group all the data by Samuel, and then by John, and then by Jane, and then by whoever else. Then we're grouping it by service status. So what we could do is say, well, what we really need is take the service status and put it over here. That's the most important thing that we need, because we're replicating a standard report. The standard report has counting rules. We need to match those counting rules in this DIY report. You see, I'm harping on about it again. That's service status. You could have service type in there. And you could group your data that way and filter that field. I'm just going to cancel out of there. Filter that field, and then you're grouping it now by the service status. So it's getting it all by all of the services that are closed, and then it's grouping it by who those are assigned to, and then by the problem types. So that's the grouping. One more really quick thing I want to go through, and then we'll be wrapping up pretty soon. Drop filter fields here. This is a bit finicky. Okay, I'll demonstrate it. So we've got the service status in there. I'll take that and I'll drop it into the filter fields there. I'm not filtering that field, as we can see right now. Okay, I'll cancel out of that. All right, I want to show you the grand total number of services, The grand total number is 146. Now I want to take this field and drop it into the drop filter fields here section rather than the rows where it currently is. I'll drop that there. And I want to see if this changes the numbers. It didn't. Okay. Sometimes it does, which makes me wonder about this service, this area here, the drop filter fields here area. I sometimes wonder how this works. But if you want to filter your data by a certain way, there's two ways to do it. You can drop your field in there, and then you can filter. So I'm filtering there and click OK, and that will filter our data. So now that has removed all of those other services. It's removed all the services with the service statuses that we don't want. Again, if you're replicating standard reports, you could drop your service type field into there, or you could have it at the start of the rows. I do recommend keeping an eye on the number of the total numbers, because that could change. I've just noticed questions. Fields, yep. Categories of month, week available to all centers. Okay, got a couple of questions here. Are these categories of month and week available to all centers? They should be. All of the fields should be in there. If you do find anything that I've showed you today that you don't have available to you, come to us and let us know, because I'd personally be really interested in that. They should be there, and I'd be really interested in why they're not, if they're not. Okay, got a thanks from someone who had to go. Okay. All right. So that's kind of a fair chunk of the information for the DIY reports. There's a lot of it there. We will be having a deep dive into those in a couple of weeks. There's a couple more things I do want to go through just quickly though. Okay. We saw the custom fields, saving and sharing. Do I have other? Yeah, exporting, printing, multiple page mode and search. Saving and sharing, let me go through this. So once we've set up a report, we could save the report and then come back and open that report again to see the same report later, so we don't have to remake it every time we want to see the same data. I'm going to click back to the list of reports, and I'm going to show you the reports that have been saved. Here's our list of reports, and as you can see, we've got the owner here. Mostly that column is going to be blank, and here's one that I'm the owner of. There's a couple of those there, and this is my demo report, which I should probably be demoing. So that's a report that I've set up and I've saved, and that's now there saved. I'll show you how to do it. So this is back into the DIY report that I was showing you just a moment ago. Anyway, I can click on the Save As button, and now I can rename it. I really highly recommend renaming these. If you're coming through and you find DIY service client copy, that's not going to tell you much about what the report is. This is services assigned to, I'm not going to blah, 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 blah. That's supposed to be dots. And I really highly recommend giving them a really descriptive name. You could even call them something like, I don't know, if you really wanted to, you could do something like that. I'm not sure I actually recommend that, but you know, you can call them whatever you want, and then you can give them a description as well if you want. I need to take caps lock off. Okay, save changes. Now, save changes and filtering are saved persistently, right? So what that means is once I save this report, if I click that, then these things that I've got filtered will stay filtered. So once I reopen this report, the filtering will stay filtered. It'll stay the same way it is set up when I save the report. If I don't click that, then it'll just revert that filtering. And then once you open the report, you have to redo your filtering. Anyway, I'm going to go. Oh no, don't worry about it. I'll go save and close. And that will then save that report. It's now going to open that report in a new tab. There it is. And here's our report. And here's the next bit of functionality, the sharing. I think I'm actually going to go over time today. Sorry about that. Sharing. I can now share this saved report with other people. And there's a couple of ways to do that. I'll go through it very quickly. You can do it either by roles or by users. So I could select all of the people who have the class admin advanced role selected and share it with them. And I can share it with them in a bunch of different ways, locked so they can just see the data. They could change the filters or it could be unlocked. So they can, so this one, it can be unlocked, but only so that they can then resave the report for a copy for themselves and rename it with their name or whatever they like, or it can be completely unlocked and they can then do whatever they want with the report. And I can do the same with individuals. So I could share it with, I don't know, Alan and give it to Alan in a bunch of different ways. So you can share reports with people. I will just click close. Okay, do you want to know? I don't. Expand, I'll just, so expand, if I click expand, that's not going to do anything. Collapse, I will quickly click that one because that's the one I probably need to do. So that's going to collapse all of these little things here. I can click there. That's a quick way to collapse and expand all of those if you want to, all in one go. I never use them, I don't know. I don't really know why you would, but if you want to, they are there. Okay. A couple of other bits of functionality I had for you, saving and sharing, exporting, printing. Yep, we can do both of those things. We can put some data into a report, whatever kind of report that is, and we can then export that data out of class. Now, you can export it to Excel. We always recommend exporting to CSV. I always mention this just because CSV is a bit better than Excel. I won't harp on about that one though. So you can export that. I'll just click it and it's going to download a file to my computer, which I will delete later. So you can export, print. These DIY reports can't be printed. You can export it and then print it if you wanted to. These standard reports. Let me just flip back to the DIY report. Yeah, they can't be printed. Okay, the standard reports can. Here's a printer icon. You can print it. You can print just the page, or you can export these. You can export these to a whole bunch. The standard reports can be in a whole bunch of different file formats, whereas the DIYs look like we only had the Excel or CSV. So you can print them out to a piece of paper if you want to. Multi-page mode was the next piece of functionality I was going to show you. This is for the standard reports. So you can make them bigger or smaller. You can also put all of it on one page. So let me close that. We've got, I mean, it's only one page, this one, but if we had a report and we broke it down by an administrative boundary and then made it suburb and we had 3 dozen suburbs in there or something, that would probably be over 2 or 3 pages. We could put it all into one go. So we've got multi-page mode there, and if you click that, that will just, it's not going to do anything here, but it'll give you the first page, and then you can just scroll straight down to see all the pages rather than having to click through to the next page. I'm going to show you. Okay, just let me really quickly check this. Multi-page mode search. You can search through these information and it'll highlight. There's that was weird. Anyway, you can search for information in your reports if you want to. Have another question here with sharing. If I save to general staff, will roles higher than that also have access? I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure how that works. I think you would need to select all the roles you want to share it with, but again, I'm not 100% sure on that. I can get you a definite answer if you want at the help desk if you like. Okay, that's 90 minutes. So I'm going to start wrapping up. And that's pretty much all of the functionality I had for you today. Yep, finding documentation and getting help. I'll finish off with that. If you've seen this before, feel free to sign off if you want to. If you do want to stick around, feel free to do that as well. Finding documentation, we have documentation. I did say I would show you where to find all of the counting rules for all of the standard reports. We've got information on the DIY reports as well. I'll show you where to find all of it. Got this button in the top right of class, the help button, question mark in a circle. If I click that, that'll open the class documentation. It'll load you to the first page of the class documentation. And today we're looking at reporting. So we've got reporting and accountability there. I'm going to click on that and we'll ignore accountability, but we'll be diving pretty deep into this documentation because there's so much of it. It's hard to get everything. Anyway, you do have to click through a few times. I'm going to click on standard reports and then reporting, standard reports. Then I'll click on the client reports. Why not? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And then I want the C03, excuse me, which is the report that we saw earlier. And as you can see, it is a few clicks and a lot of this data is buried fairly deep. If you want to get someone to send you a link to exactly what you're looking for, come to the help desk. We'll definitely do that for you because I can find this stuff really quick. So that's not a problem. Now we've got all of this information. I can't get through all of this right now as we're over time and there's quite a bit of it. I just want to scroll down to the bottom because I'm fairly sure this will give us a preview. This is what the report looks like. Filters, and then I'm pretty sure it's the counting rules. So here are the counting rules for total clients. That is how you count total clients. So as I said, a lot of these counting rules are pretty specific and technical. This is how we count genders and people experiencing financial disadvantage and all of them. What was the one I was looking at the other day? They're all in here. I was talking about, here we go. So if you are making a DIY report and you want to replicate a standard report and you want to replicate the C03 report, you will need to take this into account, where the service type equals the legal advice. So you have those, all these service types, and you have all these service types, but as we can see, information referrals and triages are not in there. So you would have to go through and replicate all of this to replicate this report if you were trying to make a DIY that is similar to this C03 report, but slightly different. So yeah, it can get really technical. So, excuse me, if you do want to find those counting rules, that's where you find them. If you're looking in the class documentation and you're not finding it, or it's just not making sense or anything like that, you can come to the help desk. So I'll come back to this navigation menu on the right-hand side and I'll click on help and support. And this is how you get help from the help desk. There's a couple of bits of basic information in here, and this is where the help desk information is. There's a number of different ways to contact us. You can email us. That's the email address. If you send an email to that email address, you will get a response from the class help desk. If that's about reporting or anything else to do with class, we actually support a number of other systems on the class help desk, which I will show you in just a minute. We've also got an online portal. So if you don't really like scrolling through or searching through massive numbers of email threads, and I could absolutely understand that, you could use the online portal. I've just opened it in a new tab. This is it here. I'll click across to it. You would need to set up an account, which I don't think is super difficult. Once you come in here, you can set up a new request with the help desk, or you could have a look at your old request or your ongoing requests. You could click there. I would show you what it looks like, but I don't have any requests with the help desk, so that's not going to be much of a demonstration, but that's where you find them. If you want to set up a new one, you can scroll down and you could have a read of all of this if you wanted to. We probably won't go through it right now. So we want to ask a question about class. It might be about LexisNexis, the NAS portal, or something else. We want to ask a question about class, and it might be a reporting request, help running reports, or refining your results, or understanding counting rules, or anything like that. We'll click on that. Excuse me again, and we'll type out our question or whatever it is. I really can't type today. Click create, attach anything if you want to, and then click create. So you've got the email address to email us at the help desk. You've got the online portal, and there's also a phone number, which is right there. That's the phone number. If you call us and the phone's not staffed, leave a message. We do check all of our voicemails, and we will respond to your voicemail if you leave your name and number. Okay, that's about it for today. Thanks for joining us for class training. We haven't done these in a while, so we're back at it. Thank you. I hope this does help. We really want to help you understand the class reports a bit better. We know they are not super intuitive and can be a bit tricky. Yep. Getting a few thank yous here, so you're welcome. Feel free to sign off. I'm going to be making a few notes of questions here. So I will be shutting this down very quickly though. Is this a report there? Okay, yep. Yep. Okay. I think I've answered all the questions, but please come to us at the help desk if I have not. So I will say thanks for being with us today. Hope this did help, and bye for now from CLCs Australia.